My name is Lars. I'm from the Danish Technological Institute, and I'm the project manager or the scientific project manager of inVALUABLE, but there are a lot more people involved. Some of you perhaps heard Jørgen Eilenberg talk yesterday about insect diseases, which is one of the work packages or activities in one of the work packages of inVALUABLE. But I'll walk you through inVALUABLE, and I probably won't be able to give you a full detailed description of the project, but if you should have questions, I'm happy to share my slides afterwards if the organizers are not sharing them, or you can go onto our website invaluable.dk and you can read more about the different work packages, including who are work package leaders of the respective work packages. So just to give you an overview of where inVALUABLE lies, at least within the Danish R&D arena, there's actually quite a lot of R&D activities going on insects as food and feed in Denmark, not only with mealworms, which is the focus of inVALUABLE, but also other types of insects like black soldier flies, crickets, and some more projects than this. But I've just included some of those that have a, how can I say, substantial budget of 100,000 euros or more. And if we look at the size of the circles of these projects, you can see that one stands out quite a lot, and that is the inVALUABLE project, which is to date one of the biggest projects we have done in Denmark on this, and I think actually probably one of the largest projects in the Western world until now, but hopefully that will just be a matter of time before an even bigger project on insect comes, because we surely need a lot of R&D in this area. So the overall vision of inVALUABLE is to create a sustainable, resource-efficient industry for animal production based on insects. So I guess we can all nod to that. And we try to do this through generating or having a consortium that spans the entire value chain, so that we can make sure that there is an interaction of competencies throughout the value chain that will lift it together, so that we will not have too big knowledge gaps or competencies gaps. The project started this year in January and runs until end of 2019. It has a total budget of 3.7 million euros, of which the Danish Innovation Fund has given a subsidy of 2.5 million euros, and the rest of the co-financing comes from the partners, primarily the private partners. We are 11 partners in the project, one research technology organization, that's the Danish Technological Institute. And I couldn't help noticing yesterday that there was one of the speakers saying that we don't have any institutes that work on insect production. We do. We do that at Danish Technological Institute, just to make that clear. But of course, maybe we haven't been too good in our branding about that outside of Denmark yet. We have 3 universities involved, Copenhagen University, where Jørgen comes from, that talked yesterday about diseases, Aarhus University, and the Technical University of Denmark, also known as DTU for short, although it's a bit reverse, but that's their acronym. And then we have 7 companies involved, of which 6 are Danish. Some of you may know Novozymes, a small Danish company that does enzymes. And then we also have an international company, Protifarm, that some of you likely know of, that produce several insect species, but the one of interest in this project is the buffalo larvae, or lesser mealworm, or Alphitopilus diaperinos. Lots of names for this particular insect. The objectives that we are working towards fulfilling in the project and focusing on mealworms, because that was one of the decisions we made when making this proposal, that every insect is unique. So we need unique solutions for the different species. Of course, some you will find overlapping or comparative knowledge where you can, for flies, combine knowledge from in some extent, and also within mealworms, the lesser, the common, etc. But these insects are as unique as different species of poultry, the pig or cows, etc. So we decided to focus on just mealworms, particularly the lesser mealworm, but we do also have a little bit of work on tenebrio for comparative reasons. So first of all, we want to reintroduce byproducts from feed and food industries that are approved as components for insect feed, so that we can launch it as back into the food chain. That's one of our objectives. The other one is to further document the nutritional value of insects as feed and food, particularly well, in both segments really. We know very little of the true value of insects in this respect. We know that they are high in protein, we know that they have some interesting fatty acids, they have minerals and vitamins that are interesting. Chitin, another component which could have great implications, is also interesting, but we know very little of them as a system, and we often focus on one factor instead of looking at the whole raw material. So that we want to assess further by using some state-of-the-art animal models. I'll get back to that. And then we want to try and combine the technologies available and to make sure that we can scale up production through, for instance, implementing automation and other processing steps to lift this up to an even more industrial scale. And last but not least, we make a big fuss of being in a continuous dialogue with the authorities, particularly the Danish authorities, of course. But I myself also participate in EPIF, and through EPIF we get a direct or relative close interaction with the European authorities. So the overall structure of inVALUABLE is as shown here. We have 3 focal areas: production, processing, and product application. And it's particularly the first and the third that we put a lot of innovation efforts into. Not meaning that processing is not important, but the technology in processing is far more matured, and we believe, do a bit more tech trans there than we can in the 2 others. We have only, to use an analog picture, pulled the pig into the stables. So we need to boost it to make it truly industrial, and that takes a lot of effort. Just as I mentioned before, we know very little about our product, so we need to document that to a larger extent. I'll now walk you through quickly some of the work packages. Some might be quicker than others, and as I said, if you have questions regarding this, grab me at coffee afterwards or drop me an email later, and then I'll be happy to give you more details. Our first work package is very much about further optimizing the production of mealworms. As I said, ProtiFarm is involved in this project, and of course they bring in already a lot of knowledge, and we try to leverage by adding more knowledge and hopefully through that be able to at the end potentially we could build a factory that could produce 5 to 10,000. The other one maybe a decade or 2, 5 to 10,000 tons of lesser mealworm. And this is something that we are, it's not a deliverable in our project, but it's a hope after the project that a joint venture between some of the relevant Danish partners, we have a big estate, Ausumgaard, that is interested in scaling up in production, that they can do a joint venture with ProtiFarm on this. And we hope that by adding information or new knowledge in this area, that we can lift it even further than where ProtiFarm are at current, although that is still for the industry quite a decent level. And currently we have built pilot production facilities at DTI, where we have an incubator where we can of course control temperature, humidity, etc. of 25 square meters, 3.5 meters in height. And this gives us a platform where we can do simulation of industrial processes at least at a more relevant level than just in a heating cupboard. And later on, production facilities at pilot scale will also be built at, it's ongoing at Ausumgaard to initiate a transition with ProtiFarm. This Jørgen already talked about yesterday, so I won't spend too much time on that, but our work package 2 is about nutrition and health of the mealworms. So designing feeds that are unique for mealworms, just like we have spent millions of euros on designing feed for poultry and pigs, we need to do the same for insects. If we want to unfold the true biological potential of insects, we need to have designed feeds that support their nutritional needs. And through this, we're also trying, as mitigation of diseases, to work with a probiotic approach to hopefully boost the immune system of insects, so that when we scale this up, we don't scale the issue of diseases up to a similar extent. And that's where Jørgen's group, and Jørgen is also the work package leader of VP2. VP3, still being in the production focal area, it's about implementing automation and vision of insect production, and it works in close collaboration with work package 1. And we try to generate a system based on the Industry 4.0 concept, where we through big data can get input on at a box level on how this box or production tray is performing over time, through having calibrated this from various inputs like temporal profiles, through thermal video cameras, etc. Moving to the second focus area, processing. The first work package in that area, work package 4, it's about developing relevant parts of processing that are of a particular interest to insects. We overall look at what different types of treatment are beneficial from an economic perspective, but also from a product perspective for the insect biomass. Different types of drying, enzymatic treatment, hydrolysis, extrusion, etc. And these different techniques are being assessed then in animal trials, which I will get back to in a short time. So that's one part. And we also look at a value logistics tool. So if we get this much for our product, how much money can we actually spend throughout this process on the different steps, and through that identify where are the biggest gaps, and then work particularly on that. But one of the processing techniques that we have identified up front is drying. There's a lot of water in these critters, as we knew beforehand, and pulling out water, as many of you surely know, it's quite costly. So that's a particular processing method that we are working more specifically with in this work package. The other work package of focal area 2 is feed and food safety. Here we have our focus on dialogue with the authorities, particularly the Danish Food Agency. But we also look into next generation of substrates for the industry, gray zone substrates as we call them. We're not talking manure and that kind of substrates, but substrate that perhaps contain animal byproduct, because there are some potential there regarding including that, but of course it needs to be very traceable and in order to in the future comply with HACCP and equivalent safety measures. However, there's also a lot of substrate out there that could really truly implement circular economy for this industry. But it needs to, of course, be products where we can ensure safety. And there are some out there, but before we can implement them, of course, we need some data that will prove that they are safe. And this is what Work Package 5 is trying to do, provide some of that preliminary data, and surely you will see plenty of projects ongoing or further on that will focus on safety of applying gray zone substrates. In our third focal area on product application, the first one is feed application, and here we have different types of animal trials that we're doing. We have just finalized a rat study where we assessed the effect of pre-treatment on mealworms to see if this or that drying technique or enzymatic treatment is the best way of conditioning the insects from a protein digestibility perspective. And end of the year, we'll know which of those pre-treatments that are the best, also from an economical perspective, that we will then take on to pig trials, and where we will do the golden standard or current, recommended approach by WHO and FAO regarding protein digestibility, namely the DIAS model, digestible indispensable amino acid score. And those studies will both provide, of course, relevant data on pigs to assess nutritional value as pig feed, although not yet legal, of course, but at the same time it is also a model that provides preclinical data for human nutrition. So that will be quite interesting to have that first level of assessment in that regard. We will also in pig studies assess some initial immune effects. There is some early evidence out there that eating insects could have a positive impact on our immune health. And I won't go too much into the biological hypotheses behind that, but we try to, through these pig studies, to underscore or emphasize whether that turns out to be the case. And hopefully we get some positive results that will then, I'm sure, mean that a whole project certainly at university level will have to be launched. And then maybe in 5 years we'll know if we can claim that insects also have a health benefit, more than just a nutritional benefit. I mean, you could say nutrition is also health, but here we're talking immune health. And then I think your models on pricing, they will change. So in 2020, hopefully that can really boost that. Okay, and then we also do some broiler chicken assessments with the mealworms to have also a feed angle there. But the pig studies will, to a large extent, provide some preclinical data relevant for humans. In food application, and now I'm over my 15 minutes, so I'll speed up in the last 2 minutes. We will use these DIAS data from the work package 6 to assess human nutrition. We'll work, and this is with, for instance, Novozymes in food application testing. Currently we're looking at bakery applications. How does different types of raw material of insects, whether that be meal or protein, fat, we know that it's novel food, especially the two latter. How does that functionally work with bakery products? That is still allowed to test it at that level. And the Danish authorities are also okay with us testing it as long as we tell them that we're doing it, and if there is any sensory work going on with real humans, then we need to let them know that they are tasting something that could potentially be very dangerous. But most people are willing to take that risk with insects, just like shrimp. Yeah. And then we do also product development with the Nordic Food Lab. Some of you may know Nordic Food Lab from having worked with this area for a long time, so they have really good competencies in working at the gastronomical level with insects, because we believe it's both important to have the bulk products that go into the supermarket, but we also need to have the recipes and the focus on how can you work with this at home. And having that focus also drives the acceptance and will mean that even more people over time will dive into insects as I call it, food of the past, food of the future. If we look at our own evolution, we've been eating insects for hundreds of thousands of years. It's only for the last couple of thousand years in the West that we haven't. So we're bringing it back. Yeah, our last work package, apart from project management, which of course also consumes some time, we look at influencing the market, we call it. You could also call it dissemination, but in order to call it something different than dissemination all the time, this is what we call work package 8. And we look at consumer acceptance by continuously monitoring through surveys. What is their feedback? How well do they know insect products? Where have they heard of them? What's their opinion about it? We bring surveys at different venues and online. And then we work particularly with the municipality of Copenhagen, which represents, I would say, at least a quarter of the Danish population, with different events so that we can get out there and talk to people about the benefits of eating insects. And we have just had a big festival on that. And then we work to have a legacy after the inVALUABLE project. We work with the Danish Insect Network to boost a stakeholder network on making sure that this value chain, not only for mealworms but for insects in general in Denmark, has a good start now and a future after inVALUABLE. And currently that network holds over 100 members, and it's less than 1 year, 150 members, less than 1 year old. A lot of companies in that network. So we're quite serious about dissemination and work package 8, and we're already within the first 10 months of the project been out at 25 plus different events, of which we have been leading some of them ourselves, like Copenhagen Bugfest, where we had a leading role. So we are serious about spreading the word and preaching what we practice. And as I said, you can follow what we do at invaluable.dk. Some of the tiles are still under construction, but under these 3 tiles you can read more about our work packages, and we're updating it as fast as we can. So my final slide here, reaching out to all of you. Although we are a consortium of 11 partners that constitute inVALUABLE, we're very open towards external collaboration. So if you see some opportunities for your company where it could be perhaps interesting to collaborate with the inVALUABLE partners, then reach out to me, and let's see how potentially we could make 2 + 2 make 5. For now, I thank you for your attention.
Thank you.